In 2020, the construction of a 48-storey high-rise apartment building was underway. The principal contractor engaged a subcontractor to install fire protection sprinkler systems for the building. On the day of the incident, workers started the installation of the fire protection sprinkler system on level 26. One worker positioned himself on a scissor lift within 2 metres from the edge of the building to install the sprinkler system on the ceiling. The edge was protected by guard railing approximately 1 metre in height, covered with metal mesh. Perimeter screens were also installed. However, there was a gap of approximately 600 millimetres between the perimeter screen deck and the edge of the building. The worker was installing a steel sprinkler head weighing 400 grams. The worker lost control of the sprinkler head. It fell through the gap between the perimeter screen deck and the edge of the building. It fell approximately 93 metres, striking a truck belonging to civil infrastructure workers. No workers or members of the public were injured. Using the WorkSafe dropped object calculator, the impact of the sprinkler head falling that distance is the same as being hit by a car on the street. Delays in facade panel manufacture meant the facade could not be installed behind the perimeter screens, leaving levels 22 to 25 exposed. To combat this change, the principal contractor organised for the installation of guardrail and vertical debris nets. 1 week prior to the incident, formwork on level 26 was completed. The principal contractor's supervisor signed a handover stating vertical debris nets or perimeter screens were in place with no gaps, rendering it open to other trades. On the day of the incident, there was a gap of approximately 600 millimetres between the perimeter screen deck and the edge of the building. The vertical debris nets had not been installed. The principal contractor's site induction did not include information that work should not commence on levels where vertical debris nets or perimeter screens were not installed. An investigation into the incident identified the principal contractor failed to install covers over gaps and openings between the perimeter screen and building edges, install vertical debris nets to the perimeter of the building on level 26, verify risk control measures were in place prior to floor handover to the services trades, prevent trades, including sprinkler fitters, working on the 26th floor until the vertical debris nets were installed. Provide information to subcontractors to ensure work did not commence on levels where vertical debris netting or perimeter screens were not installed. The subcontractor failed to identify the hazard and control the risk of falling objects before commencing work. Implement risk control measures such as using lanyards to prevent equipment from falling. Ensure vertical debris nets were installed and gaps and openings between the perimeter screen and building edges were covered before starting work. Prevent workers working on the 26th floor until adequate controls were installed. Provide information, instruction and training to workers about the risks of falling objects when working at heights. Falling objects can pose a serious risk to both workers and members of the public. Where there is a risk of objects falling from height, eliminate the risk, such as conduct internal works behind the facade, design it out of the build, for example, off-site assembly or fabrication to eliminate activities that would otherwise be performed at height. Reduce remaining risk through substitution, isolation or engineering controls, such as design project-specific perimeter screens to encapsulate the building, ensuring the bottom deck closes the gap around the perimeter of the building. This can be achieved by the installation of hinged timber flaps. Install vertical debris nets, curtain systems, guardrail systems or scaffolding to contain materials around the perimeter of the building to infill any gaps and around edges of internal voids and penetrations. Use rated catch decks for capturing falling objects. Erect overhead protection such as gantries or scaffolds. Risks may be further reduced by administrative controls, such as implementing exclusion zones at ground level, storing materials and equipment clear from the edge of the building and internal voids and penetrations. Contain loose items with lanyards, belts and pouches. Restrain loose materials with ropes, ratchet straps or adequate weights. Introduce a permit to work system. Monitor weather conditions such as high winds. Provide information, instruction and training to employees. Construction workplaces are dynamic and constantly changing environments. If changes to the original work plan or process is needed, ensure the risk controls are reviewed and, if necessary, revised. To help you understand your obligations, guidance material is available on the WorkSafe website www.worksafe.vic.gov.au/falling objects. This video was produced as a result of an enforceable undertaking between Multiplex Constructions Proprietary Limited and WorkSafe Victoria to raise awareness of occupational health and safety.